Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, I don't know how many subscribers we have because this was recorded ahead of time, but shout out to all the subscribers, and special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members Y2KHA, Brendon, Mikel, Scott, Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, Salacious, Crumb, Brendan Nelson's haircut, and Ryguy. All right. Now we take a look at the second position of mild or potential need. I seriously doubt the team will be placing much importance on this particular position this offseason, and I don't think that they should as things are. But that doesn't mean we can pretend that it completely doesn't exist. So I think everybody understands that in the modern NFL, you only really need two good linebackers. You only need two linebackers who are going to be on the field most of the time, because on most plays, you're going to be in nickel. And when you're in nickel, you're only going to have two linebackers on the field. But that doesn't mean you're always in the nickel, right? Sometimes you're going to be in that base 4-3. Sometimes you're going to have three linebackers out there. If you're Ken Norton, sometimes you're going to have three linebackers out there even when you shouldn't, because you think it's a good idea for some reason. I don't know. But because of this, while the third linebacker isn't that important, it matters a little bit. So let's spend a few minutes talking about who we could get as this third linebacker, because KJ may be gone. I expect him to be gone. Burr-kirven may be gone. I kind of sort of expect him to retire, but we'll see. We'll see. That's a mystery. Shaquem Griffin is very likely gone, for whatever that's worth. Not that I think he was really a linebacker in the NFL anyway, but that kind of leaves us in a bit of an interesting position if those guys do leave, because at that point, the backup linebackers behind Bobby and Jordan Brooks, who would probably get promoted to weak side at that point, would be Cody Barton and Ben burr-kirven. So, yeah, you could replace in-house by just going with Cody Barton and then promoting BBK to kind of back up all three linebacker positions. But we've seen a little bit of Cody Barton, and it's not great. So, yeah, you may want to come up with an alternative option there. You may want to come up with a slightly more credible, slightly more interesting, and, potential laden third linebacker. And even if you don't, you do need some depth. You do need people to back up Bobby and Brooks, and if you bring back Burr-kirven, you still need backups for him. So, yeah, let's spend a few minutes talking about third linebacker. All right, so first, let's go through free agency. This is going to be pretty quick. Obviously, we're talking about a third linebacker here. I'm not looking to break the bank to bring in a capable third linebacker. So, three names, two of them very familiar to us Seahawks fans. Not this first guy, though. This first guy is Damian Wilson. He's an outside linebacker for the Chiefs. He's been there a couple years, so he's played in a couple Super Bowls now. Had a pretty decent year in 2020, 73 tackles. Let's take a look at his overall stats. 3 tackles for loss. He was a decent contributor on the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Played in 13 games. His PFF grade is pretty lackluster, though. It's not even 52. So this is probably a guy who shouldn't really be starting. This is not a starting caliber PFF grade for whatever that's worth, which I'm not necessarily saying is a ton, but he might just not be cut out to be a starter in the NFL. So this is a guy you could probably get for very cheap, who has a lot of experience and can be somewhat dependable for you as your third linebacker. All right, to keep it going down the list, next name, Malcolm Smith. Are we going to bring the boy back home? And you guys know what I think about reunion tours. I think they usually suck, and I'm not willing to spend a bunch of money just so we can relive the glory years, but Malcolm Smith would be very cheap in all likelihood, and he actually had a pretty nice 2020 for Cleveland. He had 72 tackles and a sack, 3 tackles for loss, played in 15 games, only started in a few of them, but it was a pretty decent 2020 season. His PFF grade was actually really nice, 71. And I just don't feel like his level of play in 2020 was well recognized by the rest of the league. So I think you might actually be able to get a bit of a discount on Malcolm Smith relative to his play in 2020. So Malcolm Smith is the next guy I like. And we're going to wrap up with Kevin Pierre-Louis, a guy who we also recognize, although this guy didn't do so well when he was in Seattle. But like I said, we're not exactly looking to get the biggest, baddest, most awesomest linebacker in the world. We just need somebody who can play a little bit. Remember, Cody Barton is guaranteed to be under contract next year regardless. It's not like he's a free agent. So whoever we get is probably not even going to get full-time outside linebacker snaps. But Kevin Pierre-Louis actually had a pretty good year last year in Washington, 56 tackles, 13 games, forced a fumble, had a sack, 3 tackles for loss. It's the kind of numbers that indicate that maybe you shouldn't be starting in the NFL, but you do have a place in the NFL. His PFF grade was actually nice, 67.8. Pretty decent year for the football team. So, yeah, Kevin Pierre-Louis feels like somebody who would make sense as a linebacker who plays sparingly. So if we go to free agency to address this, those would be my 3 guys to look at. There are a couple others that would be fine. Again, I don't place a lot of importance on the third linebacker, especially when, again, like it or not, we are going to have Barton in 2021. But those are the 3 guys who caught my eye. Let's go to the draft real quick. And you guys know what picks we have at this point. So first, unless we get rid of Bobby Wagner, I'm not going to entertain the possibility of using our second-round pick on a linebacker. If we use our second-round pick on a linebacker, I'm going to assault somebody because that's just not good football practice. That's, you guys know how I feel about that. We learned it last year when we took Jordan Brooks in the first. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip down past the top 100 or so and find guys we could actually take in the later rounds. So 3 guys down here in the middle that intrigued me based off what I read, which is not a ton, and based off what I saw, which is, again, not a ton. Jamin Davis, linebacker from Kentucky. He's pretty big, 6'4", 224 pounds. Kind of big for a linebacker. He projects to be an outside linebacker in a 4-3 defense, which kind of is kind of what you're going for here. He's proven to be pretty good in the run and actually really nice in coverage. He has 5 career interceptions in 3 years as a linebacker. Had 100 tackles total in 2020 in just 10 games. Sack and a half. Really nice year from him in coverage, and it's possible Jamin Davis could be what Cody Barton has so far proven to not be, because when we got Cody Barton, my first thought was, I think this guy can cover, and it hasn't really... Well, he's shown some coverage ability, but he hasn't been able to do the other stuff to stay on the field very much. All right. Next name we're going to go over here is Garrett Wallow. He's like a 5th, maybe 6th round pick, linebacker out of TCU. If you take a look at him, he's kind of in the same boat, but he's much better against the run. Over the last 2 seasons for TCU, he has 27 tackles for loss, and he also has 5.5 sacks. So this guy's a bit of a playmaker. This guy was really good against the run. He had 125 tackles in 2019. And like I said, 18 for loss in just this one season, and 3.5 sacks. So he was phenomenal in 2019 for TCU, and I see some stuff here that make me think he would be good for a 4-3 base outside linebacker. And the last name I'm going to go over here real quick is Monty Rice. He's a linebacker out of Georgia, and his stats don't hit you in the face quite like the other 2, but he was pretty solid for 4 years in Georgia, especially the last 2. He had 89 tackles, had a shortened season in 2020 for assorted reasons, only had 50 tackles, would have probably had close to 90 again had he played the whole year, and nothing about him jumps out at you, but he seems overall solid. My understanding is that he's more athletic than average. So, yeah, I like this one too. And I think that if you're going for somebody you want to pick up in maybe the 6th or 7th round who is probably not really going to play as a rookie, but could be your backup will or a third linebacker in the future, then I think this is your guy or one of the guys to look at. And that's really going to do it. I know the third linebacker spot is not all that interesting, and again, we are guaranteed to have Cody Barton in 2021, so whatever you think of him, he will be taking some of those snaps. But if you really don't like Barton, and you really want to give yourself another option that isn't him, I kind of like these choices. You can go get one of those 3 free agents for cheap. None of those guys are going to cost more than $2 million a year, I don't think. Or you can spend a mid to low pick on one of these 3 guys. So I'm out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. Yeah, not the biggest deal in the world if you can't bring one of these guys in, but I think it's worth talking about. All right. See y'all later. See you in stream. Peace out. Go Hawks.